Hi, everyone. Lisa Haven here. Well, big things are happening right now. You see, President Trump has just made an announcement that he is going to sign an executive order on Thursday, May 28th. That's today. And this executive order is going to stand with our freedom of speech and against the censorship by Twitter and Facebook and social media giants, something I have been waiting for all along. Now, there's a lot of speculation on exactly what will be in this executive order, but some of the things being discussed right now are the removal or limitations of Section 203. And if you're not familiar with that, it is the Communications Decency Act, which basically says that social media companies are not liable for the content that we publishers are putting on their platform. If that is removed, it opens them up to, well, legal action of all kinds. So this could be something that President Trump puts or introduces. He's also talking about empowering the FCC to basically regulate social media, kind of like our utility companies. Bottom line, we need freedom of speech on our platforms. This is one reason all of us have been forced to move to alternative platforms and get off social media because of the amount of censorship that we are experiencing on a daily basis. And again, this is one reason why I want to encourage you, get on over to Restricted Republic. I can't tell you how important this is, but Justice Knight and myself started this, and we've got an amazing discount right now. If you use the code BAND, you can get your monthly for $5.99 or an even better deal, $60 for an entire year. That's the first year, $5.99 for the first year or $60 a year. But we've got all kinds of amazing information that you really need to hear that is for Restricted Republic. But moving on. So what drove President Trump to start doing this? Well, let me show you this. For starters, President Trump sent out a tweet and he said, there is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mail boxes will be robbed, ballots forged, and even illegally printed and fraudulently signed. And he's right. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people. Anyone living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got there, will get one. That will be followed up with professionals telling all these people, many of whom have never even voted before, how and for whom this will be a rigged election. And he's right. What did Twitter do? Well, they said, get the facts of mail-in ballots. In other words, the president of the United States got fact-checked by Twitter, and they said that his tweet is false. Who the hell is Twitter to do such a thing? I mean, these are the questions that we have to start asking. Well, they've ticked off the president of the United States, and this sent him on a Twitter rampage. Twitter is now interfering in the presidential election. And based off of what they did with his tweet, calling it false, they did interfere. They are saying my statement on mail-in ballots, which will lead to massive corruption and fraud, is incorrect based on fact-checking by CNN. I mean, really? And Amazon's Washington Post. I mean, give me a break. Here's another one. Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. We saw what they attempted to do and failed in 2016. We can't let a more sophisticated version of that happen again. Just like we can't let large-scale mail-in ballots take root in our country. It would be a free-for-all on cheating, forgery, and theft of ballots. Whoever cheated the most would win. Social media, clean up your act now. President Trump, please include Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, and the like. Here's another one. Twitter has now shown that everything we have been saying about them and their other compatriots is correct. Big action to follow. Big tech is doing everything in their very considerable power to censor and advance the 2020 election. If that happens, we will no longer have our freedom. Note to President Trump, we really don't right now. I will never let it happen again. They tried hard in 2016. Now they're absolutely crazy. Stay tuned. And finally, his last tweet as of 5:37 a.m. This is all within the past couple of days. This This will be a big day for social media and fairness. So you can see President Trump already making action. Now, at some point today, he could be signing that executive order, and I'll give you an update in the comment section. So look for that. But there's where we sit right now. Now, let's go on to some of the speculation of what's going to be signed in this executive order. Here's Jeff Mason. He is the White House correspondent, and here's what he tweeted. He said, President Trump will sign the executive order shortly about social media and internet companies. And he also tells that to reporters on Air Force One. So this is what's going to be happening. But let's take a look at Jonathan Turley. Now, he's important because he is the professor of public health interest law at George Washington University, the criminal defense attorney and legal analyst. So he's someone that I want to look at and say, okay, well, what's going to be in this thing? What is the legal guide? What can Trump do or not do? Right? So here he says, the expectation is that the Trump executive order on social media will include a review, of Section 230 of the Federal Communications Act for the possible elimination of protections for Twitter and other social media companies. The effort would be hard to succeed without congressional action. As a private actor, Twitter is not subject to the First Amendment, but the president and his administration are subject. That's very important. The private sector there, and for companies that have a monopoly, which is technically illegal, but Twitter has a monopoly, Facebook has a monopoly, and YouTube and Google have a monopoly, but they're being considered private, right? But here's the thing, if they control the majority, then they have to be some level of freedom of speech. They shouldn't be interfering in speech at all, unless there's some kind of pornographic thing they need to remove, or some kind of extreme violence, they need to remove that kind of stuff. But when you go beyond and start saying, well, a conspiracy theory needs to be eliminated, or because they cussed, or because they said this, freedom of speech, either it's free all the way or not free at all. But he goes on to say, as a private sector, Twitter is not the subject of the First Amendment, but president and his administration are. There are also separation of power concerns with any unilateral or construction amendment of 230. Correct. Trump, in my view, is right in condemning the action of Twitter. The focus should be on the company's assault of free speech principles. Anyone who values free speech on the internet and social media should be appalled by this action, regardless of their feelings about President Trump. And that's the sad part. Look, if this was happening to liberals and, I don't like their theology, okay, I don't like what they believe, I don't hate the person, I don't like their belief line, right? But if they were experiencing non-freedom of speech, I would stand with them and say, you're right, you are allowed to speak just like I am, because I know what goes around comes around based off who's in office. And we cannot allow that. We have to be unified in standing with our freedom of speech. But he goes on. Very long tweet here. Trump calls for eliminating protections under Section 203, which was previously proposed by Democrats. Indeed, Trump's action could produce an involuntary muscular response from Democrats in opposing the very crackdown that they previously threatened. They may also defend the free speech rights of Twitter, despite the long opposing the such free speech rights for companies in cases like Citizens United. There is an alternative. Twitter could return to neutrality and Trump could return to retweeting. So there it is. There's this whole little spiel or thread on that. But basically, they're talking about making some kind of review of Section 203, removing that, maybe even utility. It could be neither, and it could be very, very minimal, which I hope is not the case, because something has to be done. And in all reality, we don't have like our electric company or our gas company telling us we're going to shut off your power, right? Because why is it okay for these social media, companies to do likewise. Time and time again, this is what's happening. But here's some of the latest on Engadget.com. Trump's executive order could limit protections for social media companies, and they could lose their 203 protection. It goes on. Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms have been shielded by Section 203. That's the 96 Communications Decency Act I told you about, which basically says they're not liable for much of the content that users post. The executive order could argue that tech companies should lose that protection if they discriminate against their users or limit access without providing a fair hearing on in ways that aren't explained in their terms of service. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know that goes on, especially here on YouTube, where we've got videos removed and we have no idea why ever, but anyhow, people familiar with the draft of the executive order told the Wall Street Journal. So those who have seen the draft, those who are composing the draft, saying that this is something that we could be looking at. As a result of what President Trump is issuing, of course, Zuckerberg makes his little statement, right? He's one of the worst offenders, right? But here he is trying to cover his butt right now. Internet platforms aren't arbiters of truth. Zuckerberg blasts Twitter for tagging Trump as misinformation. I mean, what? The Facebook tyrant, I can't tell you how many times I've been kicked off for who knows what, right? Blocked, banned. And then on pro-Trump groups, like if you go to a pro-Trump group, they remove the share button, right? You can't share from certain groups because Facebook says that you can't. That's interfering in the election, Mr. Zuckerberg, but you can do it if you're on a Democratic page or a pro-Biden page. I mean, hello, this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with on a daily basis. So the other stuff, there's all kinds of social media sites, but there seems to be the biggest move against conservatives, against Christians, against gun owners, against these kinds of things. But here's Wikipedia co-founder, this is on Zero Hedge, says that its site is badly biased. You think? I mean, so much bias is happening in our everyday social media, Wikipedia, and all these multiple websites. So it's good to hopefully see some of that changing as we get into the near future. So all that to say, there's a lot happening. Hopefully, President Trump makes something worth it when he issues this executive order. Many people are questioning, is he crossing the line? Is he allowed to do that? What is he not allowed to do? Well, here's the thing. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google, all of them have a monopoly in their department. And right now, they're taking advantage of that and silencing voices and choosing who is and isn't allowed to speak, especially during election season. And I think some people should be reinstated. And a lot of people have been removed that shouldn't have been removed. It should be about freedom of speech. And that is the bottom line of all of it. But as I close up here, I want to encourage you guys, please make sure you check out healthwithlisa.com. Look, I take this stuff on a daily basis. It's really helped my skin, my nails, my hair. And these are things, by the way, that, we lose so much collagen in our skin over time. So this is something that has really kind of helped me get that back. And I feel this is a huge step. So I've started ordering this myself anyhow. And I pay for it too, just like you guys, but I love all of you. And I want to just thank you again for supporting me here. And thanks again for tuning in. And I love all of you. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.